coverage of Grand Prix Las Vegas. This is round 15. I am Gabby Sparks, joined by Luis Scott Vargas, and we have Ben Friedman versus Thiago Saporito. So before we get into the match real quick, Luis, what do we know about what's happened for what?
There's a Mishra's Bobble trigger.
Well, if you want to make sure you don't forget the Mishra's Bobble, that is exactly how to do it. I actually love it. We see Mishra's Bobble's triggers missed all the time on coverage.
Oh, and worse, we see people say they got missed when they didn't get missed. And
oh, yeah, or why did the opponent draw 2 cards
right,
when they were drawing from the bobble? So
Right.
Wow, I love it. Anyway, what do we know about standings so far?
So there are the top 4 players, the top 2 tables, drew in at 39 points. That's Matt Nass, Oscar Torres, Martin Yuza, and I actually don't know who the 4th one is. We're gonna have standings in between sideboard here.
Yeah, but they had a clean cut, so
they
were able to draw in.
And then the rest is a very unclean cut, whereas there's legions of 12 and 2s. Looks like Yuri Ramsey was the last person to draw in. There's legions of 12 and 2s, much like this match, playing for the last 4 slots. So we have elected to show you, through this round, the top 3 tables of 12 and 2s, all of whom, barring dramatic tiebreaker shifts, will make it to the top 8.
Right, so not 100% guaranteed, but very likely for all these players to have a win and into the top 8. So the matches that we're going to be watching are Ben Friedman versus Thiago Saporito, Luke Renault versus Matt Stanky, and Zach Elsick versus Max Mick. Now moving into the match, we have Grixis Shadow versus Mardu Pyromancer, both players at 12 and 2. So what do you think happens in this match, Luis?
This is a removal-based deck. Mardu Pyromancer playing against a slightly more proactive, but also still somewhat removal-based deck in Grixis Shadow. Grixis Shadow is definitely more of an aggressive deck that's trying to get the game over with, quick Gurmag Angler or Death Shadow. It has fewer removal spells as a result. It's going to be on Thiago whether he can stop Ben Friedman's threats and kind of lock out the game with, Bedlam Revelers and Lingering Souls, maybe Blood Moon, depending on what Ben ends up fetching for.
We've also seen Grixis Shadow be a little less popular this time around at this Grand Prix and generally in Modern. Why is that?
The format adapted to it. Modern is such a big format that it's really hard for any deck to stay on top for too long unless that deck is just patently broken, which these decks have not played out as such. So I think that we're going to see some ebb and flow where, we see humans being the most popular deck, but I wouldn't be surprised if that changed as more people adapted to that as well.
So a Thoughtseize from Ben Friedman. Let's take a look at Thiago's hand. Double Thoughtseize. No, I'm sorry. That was just him moving the Thoughtseize to the yard. So he's taking the Dreadbore.
And Thiago's stuck on 1 swamp. He already missed his or he hasn't missed his 2nd land drop yet, but, now he just did. And Ben knows that Thiago's stuck with a handful of, uncastable red cards or 2-mana cards.
So Thoughtscour targeting himself. He's milling a lot of shadows.
Yeah, and that will reduce the threat density of Ben Friedman's deck, but the Grixis Death Shadow deck sees so many cards that I'm sure he'll be able to come up with a threat here and there.
Yeah, and the Gurmag Angler delving away a big chunk of the graveyard. And Thiago missing land drops on the other side.
That Gurmag Angler will finish this game very quickly if Thiago does not draw out of it, and because of the Thoughtseize on Dreadbore, it's going to be hard for Thiago to kill the Angler even if he does draw lands.
And for those who are curious, there is going to be a top 8 today. This is the last round of Swiss, but we will be seeing the top 8 tonight. Gurmag Angler getting in there for 5. This drops down Thiago to 15.
Right, and to give you a kind of a preview of what's happening this round, we're going to watch this match. We're going to watch the match between Luke Renaud and Matt Stanky, and then we're going to watch Zach Elsick and Max Mick, after which we're still going to be giving you some awesome content, but there's a little bit more of a break between this round and the next round as the top 8 profiles and the top 8 get set up.
Yeah, the main difference is we'll just be watching more Magic this round while the players get ready for the top 8, and then we go straight into the top 8. All right, and Thiago packs it in. That was a really rough keep for him. Very quick, game 1 goes to Ben Friedman. So taking a look at our sideboards, Luis, who do you think improves post-board?
I would say that neither of these decks get significantly better. They're both just kind of good stuff type decks. They're both pretty resilient. Neither of them is particularly linear, so I could see, Thiago's going to bring in Crackling Doom. That's a card that can get rid of, a big Death Shadow.
That's a nice throwback. I haven't seen that card in a while.
Engineered Explosives kills Death Shadow, but misses on Gurmag Angler. looking on the other side, Ben Friedman has engineered explosives of his own to kill Pyromancer tokens. Stubborn Denial, because that's a pretty spell-based deck. Liliana the Last Hope does kill Pyromancer and is good against removal on Death Shadow. So, yeah, Ben probably gets a little bit more than Tiago does.
You think he's better post-board?
I do.
Mm-hmm. We've seen a lot of the Mardu Pyromancer deck. It's really had a rise in Modern. What do you think leads to that?
The ability to kill a lot of creatures with this deck and be a removal-based deck is really making it a lot more popular because humans has become such a big part of the field.
All right, while our players are sideboarding, let's take a look at standings real quick. So this is what we saw. The top 4 players had a clean cut and they could draw in. So that's Matt Nass, Martin Yuza, Oscar Torres, and Yuri Ramsey. Luis, can you walk us through what happens with this flood of 36 points?
Oh, I'm actually wondering. I don't think Yuri Ramsey actually can draw. So whoever he got paired against, presumably Oscar Torres, because Matt Nass and Martin Yuza got paired, those two got to draw. 40 points is certainly safe.
No, but we know that the first top 2 did draw.
I don't actually know if those are the top 4. Do we know that they actually ID'd? Because
I believe so, but we're going to get confirmation.
We're going to get confirmation because Yuri Ramsey cannot ID here. He's actually guaranteed to not make top 8 if he IDs, assuming that these are the correct point totals. So we're going to find out about that. Moving past that, we have the winner of Ben Friedman and Tiago that we're watching right now. We have the winner of Luke and Matt also making top 8. The winner of Zach Elsick and Max Mick, and the winner of Eli Cassis and Travis De Silva. With the lower you go, the more likely that some tiebreakers do change, and that means that, like, for example, the 13-14 match of Paul Coulier and Patrick Tierney might actually also make it as well.
So something that a lot of people are curious about, and I've seen some questions of it on Twitch, even on the rounds when we weren't on, are how do tie breaks matter? Wait.
One sec. Matt actually can't play Martin because they already played. So these are just the standings, but we
don't have the pairings.
We don't have the pairings. So,
I mean, we still heard that the top 2 tables drew.
I believe that was our assumption. I don't know. I don't know that we verified what happened. This is we selected the feature matches for this reason. So we're going to get to the bottom of that. But regardless of what happens with those tables drawing, these players in the feature match are going to play, and the winner's going to make top 8.
I will say that people have ID'd out of top 8. That is a thing that happens.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So Mishra's bobble and the nice friendly reminder. Ben is bobbling himself.
And that's strong because Ben can crack his Scalding Tarn if he doesn't like his top card. If he did like his top card, he could just play his Swamp or his Island.
Yeah, there's a nice little interaction. He decided he doesn't care for it, so he is going to go ahead and fetch.
So Mishra's Bauble is essentially a 0-mana Scry 1 in this particular case, plus draw a card. Thoughtseize is a little awkward with this hand. I mean, you can take a Fatal Push or a Bedlam Rover and be fine, but Tiago can't actually cast either of those Lingering Souls, so you really don't want to take one with Thoughtseize. Yeah, Tiago indicating, why don't you take
this one? Also, any additional spells in the yard fuel the Bedlam Reveler. Yeah, so he's going for that Fatal Push. I have found that this deck has kind of awkward mana when it comes to casting the front side of Lingering Souls, because it's very good at putting it in the yard. But sometimes it's just very difficult to find that Sacred Foundry.
It's got Faithless Looting and Collected Brutality are the main ways to get Lingering Souls in the graveyard, though Bedlam Reveler can do so in a pinch. But you are totally right. Between Blood Moon and the fact that it just has all black and red lands, it's not actually great at casting Lingering Souls.
I mean, it can lock itself out because it plays Blood Moon too. So sometimes it's like, okay, no more Lingering Souls for you. It's easy enough to get it in the yard, though.
Yeah, it doesn't have the Mardu Pyromancer deck doesn't have a basic Plains because it just doesn't come up often enough that you would need it, and you're gonna Blood Moon lock yourself and just have to discard Lingering Souls often enough.
So Bobble, Reminder.
Looks like a Surgical Extraction.
Yeah.
Surgical, not a card I like in matchups like this, except it does do some work against Snapcaster Mage. whatever they target with Snapcaster, you can Surgical. Tiago's draws have really not worked out for him.
Yeah, the deck is not really firing on all cylinders.
Or any of the cylinders.
Yeah, Tiago just plays a land and passes.
Yeah, Ben is getting more ahead each turn because it's not like Ben has any threats in play, but Ben is, cycling through his deck with baubles. He's Thoughtseize, so he knows what Tiago has. He has all his colors, so he's going to be able to cast his spells. The Grixis deck does have good card selection, and I think that Ben's pretty happy with how this is going.
So Gurmag Angler delving away the entire graveyard, but a 5/5 hits the board.
Yeah, this is going to be a really fast match if Tiago doesn't draw something here. Gurmag Angler hitting for 5, and I see a Stubborn Denial in Ben's hand. That's going to make it so even if Tiago draws something like a Dreadbore or a Liliana the Veil, it's just going to get Stubborn Denialed.
Yeah, Ben paid 2 for that Watery Grave, and here comes Thoughtseize, which is going to compel Ben to Stubborn Denial that. Ferocious is active, so it's completely countered.
And now we have outs of Snapcaster, Stubborn Denial. Oh, I do see a Snapcaster there, so...
Gurmag Angler getting in for another 5, dropping Tiago down to 10.
Wow. Ben is going to, be lucky enough to hit a pretty easy road into the top 8 here.
So Surgical Extraction targeting the Stubborn Denial in response to that Kozilek, Inquisitionist Kozilek.
And Ben could Snap Denial that, but then he still loses the Stubborn Denial in his graveyard. And then he essentially got a Snapcaster into play for, it's just in full Ambush Viper mode, which, as we know, is not very good. Though it does conserve the rest of the Stubborn Denials in his deck, though. I'd be inclined to not want to put a 2-1 into play that badly and then just commit to trying to play a game without Stubborn Denials in my deck.
Feels like Ben is far ahead enough that he could just do that, right?
Yeah, and I like this play from Ben.
Yeah, so he's letting it go. So Tiago also does get the nice upside of taking a look at how Ben has boarded.
Which will certainly help Tiago if him and Ben play in like a different tournament with the same matchup. Because I think that Tiago's tournament is going to be over fairly quickly here.
Do you think there's anything he can do to try to get back in this? Even like Chumpers to buy him some time?
Oh, Tiago definitely has outs. If he draws a white source, he can start playing Lingering Souls. That'll buy him a lot of time. And if he draws a removal spell at this point, he can successfully kill the Gurmag Angler. Oh, that was nice. The Lingering Souls has to be hit by Inquisition because Tiago has no cards that cost 3 or less. But regardless, Tiago's in a tough spot here, even if he's not completely out of it.
I mean, if he is just trying to buy time.
Still, flashback Lingering Souls and get hit by maybe a Kolagon's command or just being attacked by Angler doesn't work out great for Tiago.
What about that Hazard? Is that coming in from the sideboard?
It is. There's one Hazard in the sideboard.
What's the plan for Hazard in this matchup?
I suppose that it Hazard, because she is indestructible, doesn't get hit by any of Ben's removal, and in a long enough game, she's just a big threat, though.
I feel like this deck is always drawing cards, though. Like, it's going to make it hard for Hazard to attack.
Yeah, most of the games we've seen, Hazard would not have been effective, but I guess if the game goes long enough, eventually Hazard will get out there.
Some Tiagos hit the board. All right, so Thought Scour targeting himself.
No Tiagos.
Faithless Looting.
If Tiago can land a Hazard here, Ben doesn't actually have a great answer. Oh, wow, Ben's discarding Snapcaster here because his plan is to Kolagon's command to get the Snapcaster back. Some technology there.
Yeah, that's a cute interaction.
And Tiago did draw Bloodstained Mire, so he's going to be casting Lingering Souls for the foreseeable future here.
Yeah, so Kologan's Command, one of the modes is for him to discard.
He shocked the Spirit and got back Snapcaster.
Oh, apologies, you're right. He's cracking the Bloodstained Mire.
Right, yeah. And now Tiago's going to cast a Lingering Souls if he... Because Hazoret is way too many cards in hand, like you mentioned earlier. Though Faithless Looting helps, because it does put you down a card.
Discarding another. Yeah, and there goes the Hazoret. I have not believed that the Hazoret plan just has not looked good in a lot of the places that we've seen it. Young Pyromancer flashback, the Faithless Looting does bring an Elemental.
Well, Ben probably regretting pulling the trigger so quickly on that Kologan's Command. He could have waited. Part of the reason to wait is he didn't want to get hit by Surgical Extraction on Snapcaster, or part of the reason not to wait. But now there's a Young Pyromancer in play instead of getting to kill a token. Though Ben has more Kologan's Commands to come, so he's able to do something like...
he just has one in hand right now.
Yeah, he can also go like Snapcaster, Flashback Command, kill your Young Pyromancer, make you discard your last card, which I think he knows is, at this point, if there's 2 Lingering Souls in the graveyard, then I guess he doesn't know the last card. But either way, Ben has a lot of options here. I think he is ahead, but Tiago is starting to gum up the board a little bit.
I mean, that said, the Gurmag Angler is kind of putting him in the abyss. He does have to lose a creature every single turn.
Yeah, the Gurmag Angler devours a creature each turn.
All right, so Snapcaster Mage flashing back Kologan's Command. Target the Pyromancer you discard. It was a Bedlam Reveler.
All right, that was the last card. Well, Hazoret would be on now.
That's what I call bad beats.
So it's basically on Tiago. Can his 2 flashback Lingering Souls buy him enough time to find an answer to an Angler? Seems difficult given that Ben has another Kologan's Command and another Snapcaster in hand. That's a lot of grinding power.
I mean, if he gets another Young Pyromancer, maybe get something going.
Yeah, Pyromancer into Flashback Souls, getting 3 tokens, then you would be good. Then you lose the Pyromancer to Kologan's Command, but it gives you outs to then draw something else the next turn. Tiago also does have Faithless Looting in his graveyard, so at some point he can potentially flash that back. Do I think Tiago's best card to draw would just be Bedlam Reveler? It'd be a 2-mana 3/4 draw 3.
Yeah, it was really unfortunate that he had to discard it there.
Yeah, playing that extra fetch land did end up costing him against that Kologan's Command.
Did he need the land that turn for something?
He didn't, so I think that having it in play is good for Bedlam Reveler because you have to discard your hand, and that way if you drew a land next turn, you'd have an extra land in play. But when Ben is doing things like flashing back or casting Kologan's Commands to just get Snapcaster, that kind of signifies that Ben has access to more of all of those same things.
Yeah.
In fact, he knew he had the Snapcaster, so he knew he was going to get Kologan commanded.
All right, so 4 Lingering Souls tokens for Tiago.
There is the off chance that Tiago can steal a game here. Ben is only at 10. Tiago can try to get an army of spirits going here, but...
I mean, we are going on Snapcaster Mage's full-on Ambush Viper mode, and everything else is just jumping in front of the fish. This is a hungry fish. So let's see, 1 black for Death Shadow.
Oh, and that's going to make things even more difficult for Tiago.
That is a very good card for Ben.
Ben,
right,
perhaps.
So let's see if there's anything relevant left in there. We see that Faithless Looting, and I think that's about it.
That is it. Yeah, the 3 souls have already been flashed back. You see, Ben having another Kologan's Command, deciding whether is the card in Tiago's hand something worth knocking out right now. And one of the reasons to do that is Tiago might have wanted to flash back both souls anyway, but it couldn't be something really good. It couldn't be like a Bedlam Reveler because Tiago would have just cast that last turn anyway.
So Kolagan's command, returning Snapcaster Mage. Wow, Tiago cannot catch a break here.
Yeah. Tiago drew a Kolagan's command, but Ben was able to snipe it. Oh, and a little too late here.
I mean, he still gets to do it. It makes that Snapcaster Mage less efficient.
Yeah, Nile Spellbomb is going to take out Bren's entire graveyard. And Ben can feel it. Ben can feel that he's like on the precipice of winning here. Tiago's flashing back, faithless looting, and
oh, it feels
about
like
to
he's just been
chump
trying
souls.
to hold on to the game, you know?
Yeah. At no point in this match has Tiago been in a position where it looks like he's like making forward progress. Like he's playing catch up at best.
No, he's been trying to catch up the entire time. So another faithless looting in the yard for Tiago. And yeah, he's at a point where these lingering souls tokens, they have to jump in front of the huge creatures that Ben has.
Ben does have a lot of cards exiled though. What does that count for?
Ben fetching for a Watery Grave.
Opting to play it untapped, so he's
just
Shadow.
ambush Viper mode.
Oh yeah, the Snapcaster is just getting in there.
I think Ben only has lands in hand, but he has enough creatures to...
Yeah, the Death Shadow is currently a 6/6, so at the very least the Shadow needs to get blocked.
So Tiago's not blocking either the fish or the Snapcaster.
Yeah, Tiago's falling to 1, and...
Oh boy. It's a big draw step. Oh, it is a Bedlam Reveler.
All right, that's what Tiago needed.
He has a Pyromancer. That's one of the draws.
Well, Tiago can turn this game around. If he goes Pyromancer plus Spell, all of a sudden he's just not dead.
But I think what he has is a Blood Moon, which he cannot pay for.
And a Thoughtseize. Oh, he has Crackling Doom.
Oh, did he draw that?
Yeah, so Crackling Doom takes out the Death Shadow. Spirit Token blocks the Gurmag Angler, and Bedlam Reveler eats the Snapcaster. Also, Ben might go for it here. Ben might just attack with everything.
Right. Because I think he only has lands in hand, too, so... And he's been so far ahead the entire game.
Does Ben have one more Snapcaster? If he does, this is the time. He's deciding whether to deploy it for no abilities. He does!
Attack with everything. And oh, Ben Friedman should be in the top 8, we believe. Grixis Shadow over Mardu Pyromancer. That was insane. You said so many bad things about Ambush Viper.
Yeah, I suppose I shouldn't be surprised that at some point, given enough repeated iterations, Ambush Viper will win a match.
Look, there was no yard. What else are you going to do with it? Had he not played it, that game I think might have just gone to Tiago.
Yeah, it would start slipping out of Ben's hands very quickly because had Ben not killed Tiago there, Tiago did have Young Pyromancer in hand. We did have another Faithless Looting. All of a sudden, Ben can't do anything.
He also gets to eat one of the, like chumps, gets rid of one of the other ones, gets to eat the Snapcaster Mage. Yeah, and then Ben is so low. What is he at, 7?
Yeah, Ben was at 7, so that game could have turned around very quickly.
That was swingy.
It definitely was.
Let's see what else we're going to be taking a look at this round. We have Luke Renaud. Oh, before we do that, we actually have an interview ready, so let's head down. Hey, Ben, it's Gabby and Luis here in the booth. Congratulations.
Hey, thanks very much.
That was a hell of a match.
You're telling me.
So, when you were deploying the Ambush Vipers, basically, at the end of that game, what were you feeling like you were definitely going to go for it? Was there any hesitation with how you wanted to play that out?
Okay, so talking about the end of the game.
Yeah.
There is always some hesitation, right? Because Snapcaster Mage is quite a value card, and I
Sure.
know Luis enjoys value. I enjoy a good bit of value also, but right there, it was clear that I had the opportunity to close out the game. Obviously, if my opponent had exactly 2 removal spells, they would win. I was also drawing to my one-teamer Battle Rage I had left in the deck.
Yeah.
Liliana the Last Hope. So there were a lot of good top decks. There weren't that many instants and sorceries left that would give me good value from the Snapcaster. So I realized, well, it's probably just better to kind of slam it down and say, what you got, man?
Yeah, we actually think that worked out great for you because I think there's a chance Tiago had Crackling Doom against you in that spot, which would have been a blowout.
Blowout City.
Yeah.
I have not seen Crackling Doom in
Yeah, we were just talking about
Good
that.
against Bogles, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's the primary reason, but we can snipe a Death Shadow or a Gormag Angler just like anything else.
You are correct.
So going into the top 8, is there any matchup that you really don't want to see? How do you feel about your deck?
Okay, so Grixis Death Shadow, right? It gets much maligned these days. People like to laugh at it. They're like, bro, this deck sucks. And I did get a lot of that this weekend. I think that Grixis Death Shadow is kind of in the triumvirate with Mardu Pyromancer and Hollow One, where Hollow One has the highest power ceiling but the lowest floor. Mardu is the best against other fair decks but can't beat the cheeseball decks like Tron and KCI. Death Shadow is kind of like Mardu with a slightly bad matchup against Mardu, although obviously we didn't see that there because my opponent didn't get very good draws.
Yeah.
But it does beat the cheeseball decks like KCI and Tron because you have Stubborn Denial, Ceremonious Rejection, Disdainful Stroke, the blue cards. I would like to play against KCI, but I think that all of my KCI opponents now have learned that they can use their Grove of the Burn Willows to shrink my Death Shadows. That did not happen in either of my matches. And Matt Nass came up and said, whoa!
Yeah, I would not count on Matt Nass not knowing that.
Yeah, he
that's
learned it. He's
definitely
like,
true.
I'm so embarrassed. But yeah.
I'm also going to say I had never heard the term cheeseball decks before, but it is very good.
Yeah, cheeseball decks, monkey decks, the like, oh, look, I gotcha.
Yeah.
The only problem I have with it is that it feels like you're using it as a bit of a pejorative, and cheeseballs are great. So
That is true.
I'm not sure if I like that part of it.
Okay. I'll have to come up with some new terminology.
I am in for it. I, for one, am liking it, and I love cheese, so just rolling with it. Ben, thank you so much for joining us today. We wish you good luck in the top 8. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Best of luck.
Thanks so much, Gabby.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Cheeseball decks.
Yeah. I mean, they are trying to cheese you out.
Yeah.
So that
no,
does
I
make
think
sense.
it's great. I just had never heard that. I never heard that term used in that specific context, rather. We do have 3 other matches to watch, but before that, some messages.
So right now I'm currently spell slinging, which is so much fun. It's one of the big things I look forward to at GPs is getting to meet everyone and play different formats, or just play, pack wars and whatnot.
Welcome back to the booth. We are here in round 15 at GP Las Vegas. I'm Gabby Sparks, joined by Luis Scott Vargas, and all the players in round 15 are still playing. So we have some matches.
Every single one in the tournament. Not a single match has stopped.
We have 2 matches that we want to show you. And we're going to keep showing these matches. This round is going to be a little bit longer since we're waiting for people to go. So we're waiting for the players to get ready for the top 8 eventually. So we have a lot of Magic to watch this round. Let's head down to the match. All right, so this time we have Luke Renault versus Matt Stanky. And let's see what they're playing. This is going to be Devoted Company versus Hollow One.
Oh, wow. We're going to see some Hollow Ones. Street Wraith plus Faithless Looting.
Ooh.
How many Hollow Ones?
And
How
discarding
many? Just
one.
I'm just hoping for a 3.
But you discard 2 Bloodghasts.
Yeah, this is a great start from Hollow One. So what this deck is trying to do is exactly what it did so far. It uses Faithless Looting, Burning Inquiry, and Goblin Lore, pitching a bunch of cards like Bloodghast and Flamewake Phoenix, and putting Hollow Ones into play for free, and then delving out giant Gurmag Anglers and Tassigurs and just pressuring the opponent right from turn 1.
Yeah, we got to see, I think 2 rounds ago with Mike Sigrist, and I thought it was really cool because I think this deck gets the reputation for being like the RNG deck, right? People think that it's just random luck and stuff like that, but then talking to Siggy, he seems to think that this deck is very not like that. Like, there's a lot of important sequencing, a lot of important decisions to be made, and how you lose percentage points by actually, embracing the full randomness. So,
yeah, from his point of view, it is more consistent than people seem to think. And,
yeah.
And I agree with that. I think that for every time you do cast Burning Inquiry and discard your 2 Hollow Ones and just, feel like dropping from the tournament, there are plenty of games where you get rewarded for playing correctly.
All right, so Matt did discard those 2 Bloodghasts earlier. They're coming back now thanks to that mountain. And now Faithless Looting, let's see if he found anything good.
That looked like a Phoenix to me.
Yeah, that's a nice one to get back. He'll be able to this turn if he won. So he is off to a pretty explosive start.
Yeah, barring, the double Hollow One, this is about the best hand that Hollow One can get, which is really unfortunate news for Luke Renaud.
Yeah, so they're at the beginning of combat. Rekindling Phoenix has a... I'm sorry, Flamewake Phoenix can come back for 1 red. Pretty cheap. It has haste too.
Well, here's the strength of the Devoted Company deck. So Luke Renaud is playing a deck with Devoted Druid and Vizier of Remedies. Those 2 cards together generate infinite mana. Matt put 10 power into play by turn 2, but if he doesn't have a removal spell, he hits Luke down to 3, but then Luke just goes Vizier, get infinite mana, Duskwatch, Recruiter, find Walking Ballista, kill you, and the combo deck can come back from these situations that the more fair version just cannot.
All right, so we're going to roll the dice. This is Burning Inquiry. Both players get to draw 3 and also discard 3.
And note that it's at random.
Yeah, it is. This is random.
So Luke, even if he is setting up a combo kill, he might discard a Vizier, and I saw he has at least 1 Vizier in hand. So this is a big sweat. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're just letting each other pick which cards are going to get discarded. It's a lot of cards. All right, let's see what gets flipped.
That was a
There's
Vizier.
a Vizier. And another Flamewake for Matt.
Wow.
And we're going to talk to our producer to see if we can get the players to put the graveyard within view, because specifically for the Hollow One deck, that does matter quite a bit.
Unfortunately, this is a time walk match, so...
Never mind.
Rich has a lot of power, but he doesn't have quite that much power. Can't go back in time and fix it. Though, given the breadth of Modern and how often the decks use the graveyard, it is tough when players are, jam graveyard on the side of the screen.
Well, to be fair, the players don't know where the camera starts and ends. So, all right, everyone's getting in here, including that Flamewake Phoenix that just came back this turn.
Yeah, so it's going to knock Luke to 1. All right, does he have it? Does he have the second Vizier? And if he does, he still needs a combo piece to go with it. Oh, I see a Vizier. All right, what else does he have?
Windswept Heath.
Oh, he's got the Court of Calling. This is game. So
untap.
Again, with Devoted Druid, you can put a -1/-1 counter on it to untap it. It adds infinite mana because the Vizier prevents that counter from being put on it. Court of Calling for Duskwatch Recruiter, where you can pay 3 to look at the top 3 cards of your deck and put a creature into play or into your hand from them. using infinite mana, find Walking Ballista, play an infinite Walking Ballista, and that'll do it. Luke Renaud's winning the game at 1 life on turn 3.
That is wild. He was at 1.
And Matt just wants to see the win.
He just wants to show it. Yes, and there's the Walking Ballista, and that is the game to Luke.
Yep, Luke Renaud up a game thanks to the combo version. And there's exactly where you want it, that is for sure.
That was so impressive. Also, Matt had one of the best starts for Hollow One. Like, it was hard to ask for that much more, right?
Matt had a turn 4 kill, and that would have, that was still just not quite enough.
All right, so moving post-board, Luis, what happens in this matchup?
Luke gets to board in some Reflector Mages, basically. Not a whole lot more, maybe Qasali Pride Mage or Rex Sage, because those kill Hollow Ones. Matt, on the other hand, gets to board in Fatal Push and Grim Lavamancer, so Matt gets a little bit more, some Thought Seizes perhaps. Though the matchup plays pretty similarly. Neither deck is changing their game plan. The Hollow One deck is just getting a little bit more removal.
Mm-hmm. It's also wild to think that if Luke at any point had cracked a fetch land, he would have just been dead.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the fact that he didn't draw any somehow left him alive at 1. All right, so Goblin Lore. This only affects Matt, but he gets to draw 4 and then has to discard 3, also at random.
All right, let's see how many Hollow Ones are getting discarded.
So Flamewake Phoenix, a land, another Goblin Lord got discarded. Any Hollow Ones? Nothing.
All right, that's going to give Luke a good amount of time here. And you see Luke with the Reflector Mage at hand, so even when Matt does get something into play, the Reflector Mage will buy Luke a little bit of time. Though, I don't see many more lands, and if Matt can kill this second Noble Hierarch, things could get dicey for Luke.
He drew a Burning Inquiry for the turn. All right, so Faithless Looting. And for the Hollow One deck, Luis, what is the general reasoning behind, like, when you Burning Inquiry, when you Faithless Looting?
You usually want to cast Inquiry first, because that's when you have the most cards in your hand, because it gives you the highest chance of keeping any Hollow Ones you draw, and that's the card you care about the most.
Sure.
You'll cast Faithless Looting later, you especially want to cast Faithless Looting when you have specific cards you want to discard, like you want to set up discarding 2 Flamewake Phoenixes or a Bloodghast or what have you, or when you're looking for specific things, but you need to like chain together, like I need to find a land and a Fatal Push. Faithless Looting is a good way to get there.
Yeah, he ended up just discarding a Burning Inquiry.
Though I think that Fatal Push is going to be aimed at that Hierarch fairly soon here.
Blood Crypt and taking 2. Yeah, so Collective Brutality targeting the Noble Hierarch, and it is being escalated for duress. So what are the options? There's a Court of Calling. There's a Collected Company.
Yeah, and Matt's going to want to take the Company most likely. That's the more threatening card, especially since Luke doesn't have any creatures in play to power up that court anyway.
All right, so he is taking the Company. Writing down the rest of the cards.
Unfortunately for Matt, the Hollow One deck's really proactive and aggressive. Playing this kind of game it's not that great. Like, yeah, Luke doesn't have a lot going on, and Matt has reduced Luke's resources, but playing this kind of attrition game is just, you're not getting anywhere.
Yeah, Fatal Push takes care of the Scavenging Ooze and now Grim Lavamancer. And Grim Lavamancer coming in from the board, and it's looking really nice. There's a lot of fuel in the graveyard.
The Grim Lavamancer changes that equation, because now all of a sudden Matt has a card in play that's permanently threatening all of Luke's plays. So he's kind of virtually up multiple cards, because Luke has like a Devoted Druid in hand. He just can't even cast it against the Lavamancer. Plus the Lavamancer chips in for 2 a turn, so it is pressure by itself as well.
Yeah, the fact that he's still not drawing a lands is really punishing, because he knows he has at least two Reflector Mages.
Yeah, and if Luke draws another fetch land and can play a Reflector Mage and bounce the Lavamancer, Matt then can't cast it, then Luke plays a Devoted Druid, and maybe from there, he gets to make something happen. But for the time being, it is going to be hard for Luke to get anything on the board.
Yeah, he can't do anything this turn. He's just passing.
And Matt has enough fuel in his graveyard that he might as well shoot with the Lobmancer instead of attacking. He's not really going to run out of shots.
So Faith is looting.
Discarding a hollow
Wow,
one.
discarding a hollow one. What about that decision? Well,
there we go. I guess that answers that
explains
question.
it very cleanly. New hollow one hits the board. Okay, so there's a land for Luke.
Well, on the plus side for Luke, he still has a lot of life. He's still at 16. He's going to go to 13 from this fetch if he wants to cast Reflector Mage, but that means that he's got a little bit of time to get something going here. Ooh, you see a Worship hiding down there. That card is very good. It's an enchantment for 3 to white that says, as long as you have creatures in play, any damage that would reduce you to less than 1 leaves you at 1. So you're essentially unkillable by damage while you have creatures in play, and Matt does not have a way to remove Worship and would have to remove all of Luke's creatures in order to kill him through that.
Yeah, Black Red is not particularly good at removing enchantments. Yeah, he has 2 Worship out of the sideboard. So the 3 mana is going to help cast the Reflector Mage. Matt's just going to go ahead and fire it off before it goes back to hand.
And I like bouncing the Lobmancer here. You take 4 from the hollow one. That's the drawback. But the upside is that once you play, it lets you play something next turn that doesn't die to the Grim Lavamancer.
Yeah. Hollow one getting in here for 4.
Could also chump. It's not unreasonable. Though with Court of Calling in hand, probably do want to take the damage. Oh, Chad has a good point. Collective Brutality is a way around Worship because it is a loss of life. So that's the sort of thing that makes me really hesitant to board in something like Worship, because the way the game tends to go when you board in Worship is that you sit around forever and your opponent can't kill you, but you eventually find a way to kill them. But if they have Collective Brutality, then that really reduces how likely it is to happen.
So Engineered Explosives on 2 for Matt.
Preemptively stopping the combo pieces. Oh, is that a Phoenix in the graveyard?
I think so. I was actually just looking at that.
Did Matt?
I think he just missed it.
Oh, that is unfortunate. If Matt loses as a result of that, I think he'll be quite unhappy.
Well, we'll see if it comes down to 2 points of damage. I mean, assuming he brings it back next turn. But yeah, that is a Flamewalk Phoenix.
So Luke has a lot of options, but is constrained on mana. He's only got 3 lands in play, so he's going to play 1 card a turn here. Play another Reflector Mage, bounce the hollow one, buy himself lots of time. He can play an Eternal Witness, get back one of his creatures or a Collected Company. But he knows that Grim Lavamancer is coming down pretty soon here.
So Reflector Mage bouncing the hollow one again, and he's just buying time. Reflector Mage gets in there for another 2.
I like bouncing hollow one because you can't assume that Matt's not going to bring back Phoenix next turn, and bring back Phoenix puts Luke in a really difficult position.
All right, so Grim Lavamancer, he just passed. I mean, there's a chance that we're not. I mean, the cards are small. We don't know for sure that it is a Flamewake Phoenix, but he had one before, and he had. I'm sure he has an exile.
That looks like a Flamewake Phoenix.
Yeah. You see the little tip of the wing.
Matt Stanky has drawn a Lightning Bolt, so Luke is closer to death than I think he may realize. Between Grim Lavamancer and Lightning Bolt, Luke may only get 1 additional turn past this turn, depending on what he does. But had there been a Phoenix in play, Luke would have been dead already. So this puts Matt in a funny spot. And, you know, we've all been there. You make a mistake, right? And then you notice it later, but you actually don't want to let your opponent know that you noticed it. Like, one common, double up on a mistake people do is, like, they're like, in their Matt's position, then they notice the Phoenix, now they're like, oh man, I forgot the Phoenix, so stupid, or something like that. Now your opponent knows you're going to bring Phoenix back next time. Whereas if you don't do that, maybe they think you'll miss it again, and they'll have to, like, play with that in mind.
Well, sometimes your opponents will play in such a way where they are going to assume that you just have forgotten. Like, they have to. Maybe they're so far behind that they have to.
Yeah.
So they're just going to believe that you're still not going to notice, so you can actually really get them. Collected Company.
Ooh, I like this.
Yeah, Lavamancer. Double Bolt.
All right, well.
All right.
The second Lightning Bolt does seal the deal.
And it does go to Matt Stanky. So we're going to see a game 3. So Birds of Paradise for Luke, turn 1. Also, we saw the cycled hollow one, which doesn't come up very often.
But good on Matt for remembering that. A lot of people seem not to.
Yeah. Luckily for Matt, the Flamewake Phoenix thing didn't actually come back to get him.
No, and I'd rather see this happen. Regardless of who wins, I would rather not have a player miss top 8 because of a mistake like that, which will then haunt them forever.
Oh, yes, that would be extremely frustrating. So cycled Street Wraith. Cycled Street Wraith.
All right, we could be seeing some hollow ones.
That's a Goblin Lore, I think. Land. Faithless Looting. We have some more looks.
Hollow ones are free this turn. We haven't seen 3 yet.
I don't think there's any hollow ones.
Oh, no, there's definitely at least 1.
You see it?
I think there's 2, actually. Sadly, I don't think there's 3.
We did set a line for how many hollow ones we were going to see on turn 1. I think we set the line at 2.5.
Yeah, and
you took the over.
I
and
ambitiously
I
took the over.
I mean, I like it. And I think you are right, by the way. They're on the right-hand side.
Oh, I'm definitely right. But I'm gracious in my victory.
Oh, yes. So gracious. That's what everybody says about you. That Luis Scott Vargas, he's such a gracious one. Discarding land. Yes, 2 hollow ones. That is a great turn 1.
Wow, hollow one just seems like such an unfair card when it works. Though.
Oh, yeah, it feels like cheating.
Luke having a turn 2 Reflector Mage does go a long way. That does make it so that Matt's offense is significantly delayed.
I mean, he still has a free 4/4 on turn 1. That's a big game.
It's at least a medium-sized game.
By the way, everybody who's listening to the broadcast, I am going to give you a heads up about something that's coming up in the near future. Here at the site, they will do a top 8 announcement. When that happens, both Luis and I are going to mute our mics so you don't actually get to hear it. So you'll continue watching the matches without knowing exactly what happened. If you want to see what happened, you can go to the Magic Pro Tour Twitter account.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll announce it on Twitter.
Yeah, they'll have it there. But we will be gone for a second, and I will let you know when that's coming. All right, so Reflector Mage takes care of the first hollow one. Matt with the Tassiger. Leaving that 1 Faithless Looting in the yard.
The turn 1 bird hasn't been killed yet, and that's really critical. So if Luke has enough time to play out his hand and play all his cards, he might be able to outpace this hollow one here.
So Luke is just cracking the Horizon Canopy.
Oh, wow. That is not a good sign for Luke. If your opponent is ever just cracking Horizon Canopies on turn 3, that means that whatever is in their hand, it's not what they want right now, and that is a good sign. I mean, I see a bunch of Viziers at the very least.
If you're Luke, what are you trying to do here? It feels like he's pretty far behind.
It really depends, because playing Vizier really doesn't accomplish much. Right now, again, it is just a 2-mana 2/1 with no abilities. And even though Matt doesn't have spot removal in hand, as evidenced by last turn, he would have just played something and then played the Tastiger. I guess if it was if you only had black spells, maybe that would have been the bottleneck. But you can assume that Matt at the moment doesn't have a Bolt or a Fatal Push. It means that if you had a Devoted Druid, you would just play it. Playing just the Vizier is kind of why Luke cracked Horizon Canopy. He just doesn't have that much that's good to play.
So Faithless Looting from Matt. Taking a look at the Vizier real quick.
Yes, Goblin Chain Whirler would be good here. Someone suggested that in chat. That would be good.
One Chain Whirler, all the formats. He's drawn a Flamewake Phoenix, which hopefully at some point he'll be able to discard. Or I guess we did see, we have seen some hard cast Flamewake Phoenixes. That does happen. All right, here's the announcement. So we're both going to mute ourselves. See you in a bit, chat. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. And Ruin. Sorry about that. We had one mic that was still live while we were trying to mute it. So just pretend you didn't hear anything, and we're going to keep on watching the last match.
I had nothing to do with this, I promise. This wasn't.
This was not a troll.
This was not a troll.
This was not an elaborate troll by Luis. We just had one mic that was over on the other side.
It wasn't even like a very simple troll as opposed to an elaborate one.
All right, in the meantime, let's catch up to what's going on in this game. We have 2 Hollow Ones, that Tassiger, and a Flamewake Phoenix from Matt. And Luke is just at 6.
Luke facing down a ton of pressure here. He's going to need something pretty good to get out of this. This is actually the situation where Worship would be quite effective.
We are looking for 6 players for our last Chaos Draft. We are looking for 6 players for our last Chaos Draft.
I'm really curious what this card is.
Is that a Judge's Familiar? It's like a promo Judge's Familiar.
He does have one Judge's Familiar in his deck.
That is a promo Judge's Familiar.
Crazy, but okay.
What a time to be alive. Why is he bringing the Judge's Familiar? That's not in the main deck, right? It's in the sideboard?
Oh, it's in the main deck. I guess you just didn't board it out.
Sure. Fair enough.
So in order for Luke to win this, he's got to go chump all 3 of your 4 power creatures, Cord for Devoted Druid, and then play Vizier on his turn. He does have the Vizier on the Cord, so Luke actually has a way to win this game. It's kind of insane. He's just going to be triple chump blocking, but I think that he does have a path out.
I mean, we did see this on game 1.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It looked like he was dead, and then he just snuck out of it.
Wow, and Matt discarded a Lightning Bolt. You know,
what did he keep? A Hollow One?
Nothing that does anything this turn. Oh man, you live by the Goblin Lore, you die by the Goblin Lore. Yeah, that is for sure.
That is for sure. I mean, these are the times when you feel like you hate the card, right? Or you really don't like the random element to it. So
chump block.
Yeah, chump blocks everywhere. Chump block. Take 2 from the Phoenix. Chord of Calling.
Take 1 from your Horizon Canopy. Fall to 5. Get a Devoted Druid. Luke's heart has to be racing right now.
Yeah, I mean, he knows that if he has a Bolt,
We see the Bolt in the graveyard discarded by Hollow Goblin Lore, and I'm sure both Matt and Luke are looking at that and thinking very different things. All of Luke's creatures go to the graveyard.
Yeah, I mean, you always feel so good when you're so far ahead that your opponent is just jumping with everything. Follow up 2 more hollow ones.
Hollow 4.
We
Look
have
at all
the
these
4 of
creatures.
a kind.
If Matt had put another Phoenix into play, Luke could not tap that Horizon Canopy for white mana. He would be at 1 life, and that Horizon Canopy would not tap for white mana.
Wow.
So we saw that Luke has Vizier in hand. Does he have a kill condition? Does he have a Duskwatch Intruder, a Chord of Calling, the Walking Ballista? I can't tell what that last card is. Luke accidentally cut his own deck, but they made him reshuffle it.
They just reshuffled and recut it.
It is fine.
It is no biggie.
He has Vizier. Going to 2. Infinite mana.
What do we have?
Walking Ballista.
Walking Ballista!
Wow.
Wow! And the game goes to Luke. He steals it in the very last turn. Congratulations, Luke Renaud. You are in top 8 here at Grand Prix Las Vegas.
Wow, that was insane.
Hashtag no spoilers, but yeah, that was insane. That was 2 games that were like that.
Yeah, in one of the games it was, well, I have this Devoted Intruder in play. If I untap with it, I'm probably going to win, and the opponent can't quite kill you. The other game was chump block, Chord of Calling, untap, Vizier, Ballista.
Yeah, but he also had that game where he went down to 1.
Yeah. There was the Hollow 1 deck just ended up slightly short there, including the Goblin Lore discarding Lightning Bolt on the last turn.
That was wild. That was a really awesome match to watch, and we have 1 more right now. All right, so this is Zach Elsick versus Max Mick. Let's take a look and see what they're playing. We're seeing KCI versus Mono Green Tron.
And this is a matchup where you'd generally rather be on the KCI side because it is just a little bit faster than Tron, and again, much like Storm, doesn't care about a lot of the disruptive elements that Tron has. That said, Tron is the kind of deck that can just, turbo out a turn 3 Karn and beat a lot of different decks based on that.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of KCI leading up to the top 8. Zach Elsick, famous for inventing Lantern control, so he does love these kinds of decks. I have little artifacts, I activate them for small value here and there.
Attention, modern main event players.
All right, so Ancient Stirrings for Max.
Trying to pull together a turn 3 Tron here.
Main event stage. Elite Cassis, pardon me, Elite Cassis to the green main event stage.
So what is the choice?
Well, not the right Tron piece. It looks like a tower, which he already has, so basically it's between Expedition Map or Pantsless Karn.
You mean the Liberated card?
Oh, yeah.
So Chromatic Sphere for Max.
Off of Forest, which means there will be no turn 3 Karns this particular game. And even though KCI, I think, does have the edge here, Zach knows he's on a clock. You can't mess around against Tron, even if it's one of your decent matchups.
How good is decent?
I would rather be on the Ironworks side. I don't think it's that lopsided. Like, I think Storm versus Tron is fairly lopsided. That's one of the more lopsided matchups. Or Infect versus Karkland Ironworks. Infect has a huge edge. Here, I just think that the Ironworks deck is a little bit faster than Tron and doesn't care about enough of Tron's cards that it's not all that disruptible. But look, Zach didn't play a 3rd land, so he's not getting that close to a kill, especially if he's missing Ironworks, which is one of the bottlenecks of the deck. If it doesn't have Ironworks, it can be really slow.
We did see Tron annihilate Storm earlier today, but yes, that matchup is extremely lopsided. So we have 2 pieces of Tron, a Chromatic Star.
Saw someone ask, Time Walk means this was a pre-recorded match, but this is the first time it's being shown. So this is essentially a live match if you weren't there watching it in person.
Yeah, basically what's going on here is we have a top 8 that's getting ready to play, but we want to show you guys as much Magic as possible. So we had the live match, which was at the beginning, and then all the matches that we were watching this round are playing for top 8. The winners, it's not 100% guaranteed, but it's very likely that the winner of all these matches is going to make it into top 8.
I mean, if you think about it, everything you watch is in the past anyway. By the time it reaches your eyes,
this just feels like the gif of the woman looking at the equations.
Yeah.
That's what this feels like.
So the fact
is
that
everything in the past?
I mean, it just literally is. The fact that it got recorded then rebroadcast is really just semantics that you're not watching it quote unquote live via Twitch.
So deep, Louise.
I could continue if you want it.
Well, Max has assembled Tron, and that is an Oblivion Stone. How good is Oblivion Stone against Zach?
It's okay. It's not as good as you might think because a lot of Zach's cards replace themselves. Mm-hmm. Though in this case, since Zach's tapping out, Max is definitely going to take this opportunity to go ahead and destroy those Mind Stones before Zach can draw a card. Though I do think Max wanted to let the Inventors Fair trigger resolve before doing that, because now Zach's going to draw a card off the Ichor Wellspring and then have better idea of what to search for. But minor note.
Yeah, they both get to draw from that. Also, Max gets to draw from the star.
Yes. Oblivion Stone does reset Zach if he's overcommitted and doesn't have a KCI, but this deck is very capable of just all going off in one turn. So it's not a silver bullet, but yeah, it has some utility. Destroying 2 Mind Stones here was pretty good.
For those who are curious in chat about I'm seeing a lot of questions about the beta draft. That is actually happening tomorrow.
Oh, it is?
You know it is. You're playing in it.
I haven't thought about it much, to be honest.
Yeah, so there is no exact time that is going to start, because it is going to have to happen in between the limited Grand Prix. But we expect somewhere around 7 to 8 p.m. Pacific time.
Yeah, I'll see if I can make it.
You know you're going to make it. You're so excited. You haven't stopped talking about it. Yeah, I'll see if I have time in my calendar. Ancient Strings for Zach.
Zach has to rebuild here, since that Oblivion Stone destroying the 2 Mind Stones knocked him back by a turn, but he's on the precipice of going off. He has Mind Stone and 3 land, which lets him go play, if he goes Krark-Clan Ironworks, Mox Opal, Ichor Wellspring, he could just combo off from there.
What are Max's best threats against KCI, you think?
Karn, the one he just played, does a pretty good job because it destroys a permanent every turn. Mm-hmm. And Zach is going to fall further and further behind if he can't get on the board here. Especially if he can't close out the game, because we can see that Max has another Karn, and you're familiar with the sequence of Karn -3, Karn -3, play another Karn, Karn -3.
It is the best feeling. You play Tron for that feeling. Ichor Wellspring is going to draw Zach another card. And another Ancient Strings.
Sometimes when someone casts Ancient Stirrings, I make the big stirring motion. Chat, you can assume I'm doing that, though I'm honestly a little too lazy right now to do it. So just assume I am. What Zach needs to get out of the situation is really cheap artifacts. He's got Krark-Clan Ironworks. Yeah, Mox Opal is exactly what he's looking for. He needs to be able to string together a sequence of very cheap artifacts that will let him kind of go off with KCI just in one turn. In fact, this is a good start.
So we've featured KCI a couple times in the feature match area, but just in case for anybody who might be joining who is not super familiar with the deck, can you walk us through what the combo is like?
So the namesake of the deck, Karkland Ironworks, is the card you need to win. You can't win without it. And you cast Karkland Ironworks. It lets you sack an artifact to make 2 colorless mana. You sack Stars and Ichor Wellsprings and Explosives and Moxes, generate a ton of mana. Ideally, you find then and play Scrap Trawler, which means every time you sack an artifact, you get a cheaper one back. And you continue sacrificing artifacts and getting them back and adding mana until you play Mirror Retriever. And meanwhile, Zach's world is imploding. And if Zach were able to play a Karkland Ironworks, the combination of Mirror Retriever and Scrap Trawler, Mox Opal, Chromatic Star gives you infinite mana. You eventually find Pirate Spellbomb, and you cast it as many times as you need in order to win the game.
Yeah, that was pretty brutal. Zach actually drew the KCI there at the very end, but between Ulamog and Karn ticking down, Zach was left with very, very few permanents and a really hard time coming back. So moving on to game 2, what do you think happens to these games and their sideboards?
Well, the Tron deck does improve more because it had a bad matchup game 1. Max did steal the game, and that's been a recurring theme of this weekend is Tron stealing games in bad matchups.
Yes, we've seen a lot of that actually.
I guess you really don't play Tron if you like Justice. I
do admit that rooting for Tron, it is like rooting for. That is not who you want to root for. I understand that.
So Max gets to sideboard in 3 Nature's Claims, 2 Surgical Extractions, especially because that does disrupt the combo, and 3 Thought Not Seers. That's actually a pretty hefty sideboard. Maybe an Emrakul, the Promised End also. Whereas, because Max has a lot of cards he wants to take out, like Wormcoil Engines and Walking Blitzes just don't do all that much. Ugin the Spirit Dragon is a fairly poor. On the other side, Zach Elsick has maybe just some Nature's Claims. Not much because the matchup is good and you just can't board against everything. So,
it sounds like neither player has that much for each other.
Well, no, Max boards in a decent amount, but that's partially because he has so many dead cards in game 1.
Sure.
I actually like Max's side of things because, first of all, you're up a game, which already gives you a really huge edge. Just even in a good matchup, being up a game is a huge advantage. Mm-hmm. And Max is boarding in 7 or 8 cards, and some of them are quite effective.
We're going to see Chromatic Sphere for Max. And let's see what Zach can put together this turn.
No Mind Stone. That is unfortunate for him.
So he's going to crack that sphere and do a little cycling. No Tron pieces, just a Ghost Quarter, but that is an Expedition map, which is going to help him continue finding the Urza lands.
Though, because Max didn't play a Tron piece on turn 3, or turn 2 for that matter, you can rule out him having Tron in hand. So even if he cracks map and finds a Tron piece, he's going to need to have something like Sylvan Scrying, at which point he could assemble Tron next turn.
That was a really nice turn for Zach.
It was
Wellspring into Mox Opal into Terrarian.
Yeah, Zach is really getting his board full of artifacts, and now this is where he could play an Ironworks and be in really good shape. Unfortunately, I saw Thought Not Seer lurking in Max's hand.
Are they coming from the sideboard?
Yeah, he's got 3 in the board, and he's able to pick apart Zach's hand with that.
All right, so second Tron piece, he's getting a tower.
All right, we're going to see what Zach is working with fairly soon here. There is the Sylvan Scrying, so next turn Max is going to have Tron. And
yeah, we have reached the point of the game where things are a little bit sped up. So Thought Not Seer, and let's see what Zach has in hand.
Double Karkland Ironworks. So this is really bad news for Max. He can take an Ironworks, but Zach has 2 of them. And if Zach finds a mana source next turn, he can play Ironworks and at the very least draw a bunch of cards.
Yeah, he ended up just going with Engineered Explosive since he wasn't going to be able to take both of them.
Also, even if Zach misses on the first draw step, he gets to crack Chromatic Sphere to draw a card, and then if he needs to, he can also crack Terrarian to draw a card. Oh, looks like Looks like Zach isn't getting there. It's down to Terrarian.
He gets to float 2 with that.
Okay, he found an Ironworks.
Okay, there you go. Ironworks. And so now from this spot, what is Zach needing to put in play to actually combo off?
He would need to sack the Ichor Wellspring and the Mox to play like Scrap Trawler, then play a Chromatic Star. He could also play a Mirror Retriever here. All his cheap artifacts chain, and there are definitely many different sequences that lead to him getting enough mana and getting enough cards to assemble Scrap Trawler plus Mirror Retriever, which would at this point be enough to finish the game.
6:30 monitor event. Your cards are located next to the blue gathering point.
All right, so there's a Scrap Trawler. He's going to play an Ichor Wellsprings, draw a card, sack it to the KCI. He's got 2 floating.
He's just playing with his hand face up.
He is.
This is great.
Oh, he
I
really
love
just
it.
is.
So unfortunately for Zach, he hasn't found any very cheap artifacts, so he's going to have to essentially use Scrap Trawler just to rebuy the Ichor Wellspring.
Another Wellspring, play it. He's drawn a land.
Zach is doing a good job spinning wheels, but he's not making forward
He's not actually
progress.
getting anywhere, yes. I mean, isn't that the definition of wheel spinning?
Yes.
Ichor Wellsprings. Draw.
Ooh, Chromatic Star helps. That's +1 mana, +1 in cycles. Because unlike Chromatic Sphere, if you sack Star to Ironworks, you get 2 mana from the Ironworks and you draw a
also get to
card.
draw.
Whereas Sphere, you actually have to sacrifice to its mana ability just because of how the cards are worded.
Okay, sacking another Wellsprings, another Star.
Zach now has enough mana where he can play Trawler and then doesn't have to sack the Trawler. So now he can sack the Chromatic Star, get back up, Mox Opal, draw a card. Then he can play Mox Opal, tap it for mana, sack it to Ironworks, play a Ichor Wellspring, sack it, draw a card, use Scrap Trawler to get back Star, sack it, draw a card, use that to get back Opal. So he's running through his deck very quickly, and with another card kind Ironworks, he can get back the second Scrap Trawler. Once he has 2 Scrap Trawlers, he can go infinite.
I love that Zach was playing with his hand face up.
Yeah, that was sweet.
All right, so this is game 3, and this is they're playing for the top 8, so this is big stakes. Ancient Strings on turn 1.
I think big stakes is what Paul Cheon said his plans were for tonight. He decided not to do commentary, so.
That did seem like that was his plan. All right, Expedition map. All right, Explosives, Ichor Wellspring. Sack the Star.
Yeah, it looks like Zach's deciding that he wants to sack Star before playing Ichor Wellspring.
All right, draw from the Wellspring. What is an Ichor Wellspring anyway?
So Ichor is one of what I believe the Phyrexian used to contaminate things on the plane of Mirrodin.
Okay.
And a Ichor Wellspring is like a concentration of Ichor.
I mean, that lines up to what's going on in that card. I just remember looking at this card when people played eggs and not being like, what is this? All right, cracking.
So we're seeing turn 3 Tron, but not in the way where you have all the lands
It's not the
untapped.
most powerful version of Tron, no, but at least it is assembled.
Well, Relic of Progenitus isn't bad. Unfortunately, Mac's not going to be able to keep up mana to sacrifice it because Relic is disruptive when it's got mana untapped, but without having any mana untapped, it's not going to be nearly as problematic for Zach.
Max does have that Ulamog, so when he does get to 10,
Well, and Max is breathing a sigh of relief here because Zach going land, Kartclan, Iron Oryx could just end this game. But Zach is still just kind of fiddling around with Ichor Wellsprings, which luckily we now know the definition of.
All right, so Karn, not quite enough for that Ulamog.
And I
Karn
think
does get to start ticking down. Let's see what it exiles, that Inventor's Fair.
Yeah, and Max definitely has to attack Zach's mana here. It's really not productive to attack Zach's hand because he's constrained on mana. He's not constrained on cards in hand.
Max is going to crack that Relic in response to the Nature's Claim. A Mind Stone.
Oof.
Yeah, and Zach is just not putting anything together here.
No, and I think Max can feel it. He's got Ulamog in his hand. If he has a land, he's able to play Ulamog.
Not quite,
Not
but
quite.
he can get a land out of this. Yeah, he's just going to get a basic forest. So Ulamog is lurking there for next turn.
Still, Karn -3 plus a Thought-Knot Seer. Pretty good chance of keeping Zach off the ability to combo next turn because Zach would need something like multiple Mox Opals in order to get to 4 mana and play KCI.
Yeah, and Karn is on
wow.
full destruction mode. Wow, Nature's Claim also to get rid of the Mind Stone.
Tron is just looking
Yeah,
really good here.
I'm so impressed.
Yeah, very easy taking a Mox Opal there. Zach's on 1 mana.
Yeah, he's just stranded everything in Zach's hand.
And here comes
Draw, here's
Ulamog.
Ulamog, and there you go. You have it. Max Mick moves on to the top 8. Congratulations to Max. Condolences to Zach. Tron looked really good that matchup.
Yeah, Zach stumbled just like a little bit, didn't have quite the smooth draw.
Yeah.
And Max just went Karn into Nature's Claim, into Relic, into Ulamog, and that was it.
All right, so we have a top 8 for you guys. So we have Matt Nass at first place with 42 points, Yuri Ramsey at 40 points, and then we had the slew of people that were at 36 points, and this is what happened. We have Martin Yuza, Ben Friedman, Luke Renault, Ellie Cassis, and Max Mick, and Patrick Turney for our top 8. Oh, Andrew Beckstrom.
You just noticed 9th. I saw that.
Look, I was reading the top 8, and I also had my little top 8 announcement. So I'm so sorry. But we have a lot of Magic coming your way still. We have the top 8 to go through. So we will be back after these messages.